Christmas is supposed to be warm. Soft lights and dark windows. Snow falling quiet as, well, snow. A season of comfort, tradition, and familiar stories told again and again. But there's another side to Christmas, an older one. Before shopping lists and radio jingles, winter was dangerous. The nights were long. The cold was unforgiving. And people filled the darkness with stories. Not just of miracles and angels, but of ghosts, omens, and things that wandered too close to the firelight. For generations, Christmas Eve was the night for ghost stories, a time when the veil felt thin, when spirits were said to roam, when the past refused to stay buried beneath the snow. Cinema didn't invent Christmas horror, it inherited it. From Victorian hauntings to silent specters, from whispered phone calls to killers in red suits, from folklore demons to monsters born of loneliness and rage, Christmas has always carried a shadow. Tonight, we're stepping into that shadow. This is the story of Christmas horror, how filmmakers took the season of joy and wrapped it around fear, how snow-covered streets became hunting grounds, and how the holiday spirit found a dark reflection staring back at it from the screen. So pour yourself something warm, dim the lights, and remember, when there's Christmas cheer, there's always something waiting just beyond it. Snow blankets Victorian England in a soft white hush. But inside the streets and alleys, something darker stirs. For centuries before cinema, Christmas Eve wasn't just a night for joy. It was a night for ghost stories. And no tale captured that eerie tradition better than Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. When film was invented, it took directors approximately 12 seconds to adapt it. The oldest known adaptation is 1901's Scrooge, or Marley's Ghost. Shot on primitive cameras, it lasts barely 6 minutes, yet it's groundbreaking. To make Marley materialize, filmmakers used double exposure, an effect so new audiences gasped. Early viewers, not yet used to cinema tricks, believed they were seeing an actual ghost on screen. It may be dusty, flickery, and incomplete, but it marks the very beginning of Christmas horror on film. Dozens of short silent adaptations followed. Some are lost forever, some are fragments, but the ones that survive all share a vibe. Thick fog, stark shadows, pale spirits emerging from blackness. Graveyard visions straight out of Gothic nightmares. Without sound, the ghost scenes feel even more otherworldly, like long-lost recordings of actual hauntings. With the rise of talkies, A Christmas Carol evolved again. The 1935 British version leans hard into horror. Marley's face appears in door knockers. Spirits glow unnaturally. Scenes of Scrooge's lonely, silent childhood playing like tragic hauntings. By the 1930s, the story had fully become the Christmas ghost movie template.
It's all humbug, I tell you! Mercy! Man of the worldly mind, do you believe in me or not? I do. I must.
See the phantoms filling the sky around you. They astound you. I can tell. These inhabitants of hell.
These early films helped establish the Christmas ghost story as a cinematic tradition. They were the blueprint, the dark winter mood, the supernatural confrontations, the moral fears. All of it flows downstream into the modern Christmas horrors we watch today. Every killer Santa, every monster in the snow, every December nightmare. They all sit by the same fireplace Dickens lit nearly 2 centuries ago. If you walked into a midnight movie screening in the early 1970s, there was a good chance you were surrounded by cigarette smoke, denim jackets, and an audience hungry for anything weird, grim, and experimental. Silent Night, Bloody Night fits that world perfectly. A film rough around the edges, atmospheric, and soaked in the fading counterculture gloom of the era. It wasn't polished, it wasn't mainstream, but it quietly laid the foundation for the Christmas horror boom to come. The production is the stuff of indie film legend, or indie film disaster, depending on who you ask. Shot in rural New York on a shoestring budget, the cast was a mix of rising actors, stage performers, and future underground icons. Mary Warrenoff and John Carradine, both staples of strange cinema, appear in the film before fully becoming cult royalty. The look of the movie wasn't slick or studio produced. It was gritty, grainy, decaying. And honestly, that works in its favor. The texture makes the whole thing feel like you're watching a long-lost snuff film someone found in the basement of a condemned house. The setup is classic. A secluded mansion, a dark family legacy, and secrets buried under snow and silence. The Butler House, an old estate with a past soaked in tragedy, becomes the setting for a series of brutal murders during Christmas Eve. A threatening phone call.
I've come back.
What's that?
Tess, I want to see you again.
Hello? Who is this?
You know me, Tess. It's Mary Ann. Tell the mayor. Tell them all. I'm waiting in my father's house. Tess, it's so lonesome here. Don't be long.
One of the earliest examples of the killer on the line trope, echoes the creepy vocal distortions we'd later see in Black Christmas and Scream. There's an asylum subplot, flashbacks shot in sepia, and a killer whose identity is tied to generational trauma rather than a simple shock value. The film feels like an unholy marriage between Psycho, an Ed Wood film, and a student art project someone shot after pulling 3 all-nighters. Because of distribution problems, rights issues, and its low budget, Silent Night, Bloody Night never got the respect or visibility it deserved. By the time it hit television and VHS, it was chopped up, re-edited, and dumped into public domain packs with titles like 100 Horror Movies for $9.99. But here's the thing. It did something first. Creepy phone calls. Unknown killer stalking a holiday gathering, grim, nihilistic energy, and Christmas night carnage. It's quiet, but its fingerprints are all over what comes next. Just 2 years later, the slasher genre would ignite with the film that truly defined Christmas horror. But in many ways, Silent Night, Bloody Night lit the match first. It may not be as famous, but its DNA is woven through the entire subgenre. In 1974, Christmas horror stopped being a curiosity and became something terrifyingly real. Black Christmas didn't just redefine holiday horror. It helped invent the modern slasher film years before audiences even had a name for it. And the most unsettling part? It didn't rely on spectacle. It relied on absence. The film was directed by Bob Clark, a filmmaker with wildly eclectic taste. Someone equally comfortable making counterculture dramas, raunchy comedies, and quiet horror. The idea for Black Christmas reportedly came from two sources: urban legends about anonymous phone calls, and a series of real-life murders that haunted Clark while he was living in Canada. Rather than make a flashy exploitation picture, Clark wanted to do something colder, something that felt real. The result was a movie that unfolds like a bad memory, fragmented, uncomfortable, and unresolved. Set during Christmas break at a sorority house in Toronto, the film immediately establishes an atmosphere of isolation. The campus empties out. The streets go quiet. The house becomes a world unto itself. This wasn't a spooky mansion or remote cabin. It was a place of warmth, laughter, and familiarity, decorated for the holidays, filled with friends. And that's exactly what makes it so effective. The danger doesn't come from outside. It's already inside the walls. The phone calls on Black Christmas are legendary. They aren't clever, they aren't taunting in a traditional slasher way. They're broken, fragmented, indecipherable. The caller, never fully identified, never explained, shifts voices, screams obscenities, sobs, whispers names that may or may not exist.
He's expanded his act. Could that be one person? No, Claire, that's the Mormon Tabernacle Choir doing their annual obscene phone call.
It feels less like a villain and more like listening in on a complete psychological collapse. Unlike later slashers, Black Christmas refuses to make the killer charismatic. There's no mask to sell, no mythology to comfort us. Just a voice on the line and breathing in the dark. What also sets the film apart is its cast. Olivia Hussey plays Jess, a character far ahead of her time. Independent, assertive,
Bill! Please answer me! Please answer me!
her storyline isn't a side plot, it's the emotional spine of the film. Margot Kidder, as the sharp-tongued, perpetually drunk Barb, steals every scene she's in.
Fellatio 20880. Fellatio. It's a new exchange. FE.
It's a new one on me. How do you spell it?
Capital F, E, little L, Latio.
Thanks.
Don't mention it.
What's this? Well, that's the number at the sorority house. Felicia? Yeah, it's a new exchange. F.E. New exchange? Yeah, Felicia. One of the girls that was in this afternoon gave it to me.
She gave it to you.
Yeah.
Nash, I don't think you could pick your nose without written instructions.
Funny, abrasive, and deeply human. These characters don't just exist to die. They feel real, which makes every moment of dread hit harder. Visually, Black Christmas was revolutionary. Bob Clark used early POV camera techniques to put the audience inside the killer's head, climbing the exterior of the house, crawling through the attic, watching the girls from above. John Carpenter would later use this exact technique in Halloween, and openly credited Black Christmas as a major influence. The film understands something crucial. Christmas is already eerie when it's quiet. Most horror films end with resolution. The killer is unmasked or the threat is eliminated. Order is restored. Black Christmas does none of that. The police leave, the house goes dark, the phone begins to ring again. The killer is still inside. It's one of the bleakest endings in horror history, not because it's violent, but because it offers no explanation, no lesson, no closure. Just the knowledge that evil doesn't always announce itself and doesn't always leave. Today, Black Christmas is widely regarded as one of the most important horror films ever made. Not just Christmas horror, but horror, period. It influenced Halloween, the entire slasher boom of the late 70s and 80s, the use of POV in horror, the concept of the unknown killer. And unlike many films of its era, it hasn't lost its power. If anything, it's grown colder with time. Because the scariest thing about Black Christmas isn't what it shows you, it's what it refuses to explain. In 1984, Christmas horror became national news. Silent Night, Deadly Night was a lightning rod. A film so controversial it sparked protests, lawsuits, and televised outrage, all over one idea. What if Santa Claus was the killer? By the early 1980s, slashers were everywhere. Halloween, Friday the 13th, My Bloody Valentine. The formula was established, profitable, and increasingly formulaic. Producers saw Christmas as the next frontier. The result was Silent Night, Deadly Night, a low-budget slasher released by TriStar Pictures that leaned straight into provocation. The marketing alone was enough to ignite backlash. Before audiences even saw the movie, the damage was done. At its core, Silent Night, Deadly Night isn't about Santa at all. It's about Billy Chapman, a child whose understanding of Christmas is shattered by violence. As a boy, Billy witnesses his parents murdered by a man dressed as Santa Claus. The trauma follows him into adulthood, festering under repression, religious guilt, and abuse at a Catholic orphanage. When Billy is forced to don a Santa suit himself, the past snaps shut. The costume becomes a trigger, and the holiday becomes a bloodbath. What's striking is how earnestly the film plays this arc. Billy isn't a wisecracking killer. He's confused, broken, conditioned by punishment and shame. In a strange way, it's closer to a tragedy than an exploitation film. Upon release, parent groups erupted, religious organizations picketed theaters, newscasters condemned the film on air.
And Silent Night, Deadly Night now has the distinction of joining I Spit on Your Grave as one of the two most contemptible films I've seen. And I don't mean to think it's campy, it really is quite awful.
Shame on you, Siskel, and shame on you, Ebert, because I don't believe you. I think it was the height of hypocrisy for them to take that attitude. If they genuinely were horrified at the picture, they know very well that the most effective thing they could have done is to not review the picture.
And yes, we even see Santa give one little girl a bloody knife as a gift and threaten another little girl with physical punishment as he sits on his lap.
The outcry was swift and overwhelming. TriStar panicked. Just 2 weeks into its release, the studio pulled Silent Night, Deadly Night from theaters nationwide, an unprecedented move for a major distributor. Ironically, the controversy ensured the film's immortality. VHS copies circulated endlessly. Bootlegs spread. Kids whispered about that banned Santa movie that they weren't supposed to see. The attempt to bury it only made it legendary. Is Silent Night, Deadly Night a great film? That depends on who you ask. It's rough, it's cheap, the performances are uneven, and yes, some kills are pure slasher schlock. But its sincerity is undeniable. Unlike later Killer Santa movies, this one means it. It isn't parody, it isn't camp, not yet. It's a grim story about how violence warps innocence, told in the blunt language of early 80s horror. And that seriousness is exactly what made people uncomfortable. After Silent Night, Deadly Night, the door was open. Santa could be the killer. Christmas could be hostile. The holiday was no longer immune. The image of Santa Claus as a slasher icon had entered pop culture permanently. And whether people loved it or hated it, Silent Night, Deadly Night proved one thing. Christmas horror had crossed the line, and there was no going back. In 1984, Christmas horror didn't sneak into theaters. It kicked the door down, laughed, and started wrecking the place. Gremlins was a phenomenon. A movie that smuggled horror into the mainstream under the cover of comedy, family adventure, and Spielberg-produced spectacle. It was funny, it was cruel, and it gleefully tore apart the illusion of a safe, perfect holiday. The film was directed by Joe Dante, a filmmaker raised on old monster movies, Looney Tunes chaos, and a deep love of cinematic anarchy. The script came from Chris Columbus, who originally wrote Gremlins Much Darker, a satire about consumerism, suburban emptiness, and Christmas as an obligation rather than a joy. Steven Spielberg stepped in as a producer, smoothing some edges, but not too many. What remained was something rare, a studio movie that wanted to misbehave. At the heart of the story is Gizmo, a mogwai gifted as a Christmas present, cute, wide-eyed, and almost angelic. But he comes with rules. No bright light, no water.
And probably the most important thing, don't ever feed him after midnight.
Rules, of course, exist to be broken. Once they are, the Gremlins erupt. Small, sadistic creatures who delight in destruction, mock humanity, and gleefully turn a snow-covered town into a war zone. What makes this brilliant is the contrast. This isn't a gothic castle or remote wilderness. It's suburbia. Department stores, living rooms, Christmas trees. The safest places imaginable, made hostile. Despite its playful tone, Gremlins pulls no punches. There are brutal deaths, implied off-screen kills, scenes of genuine menace. The Gremlins don't stalk silently, they celebrate violence. They drink, they smoke. They sing Christmas carols while tearing apart the town. Joe Dante shoots them like classic monsters and cartoon villains simultaneously. The perfect hybrid of childhood fear and slapstick cruelty. And then there's that monologue.
Firemen came and broke through the chimney top, and me and Mom were expecting them to pull out a dead cat or a bird, and instead they pulled out my father.
It lands like a gut punch. The movie pauses its chaos just long enough to remind you, this holiday has teeth. When Gremlins was released, it caused an uproar. Not from parents this time, but from studios. The film was too scary for kids, but too playful for adults. It directly led to the creation of the PG-13 rating, permanently altering how Hollywood categorized fear. That alone makes it historically essential. But beyond that, Gremlins normalized Christmas horror. It proved you could blend terror, comedy, and holiday iconography, and audiences would show up in droves. It didn't offend Christmas. It played with it. Decades later, Gremlins remains a Christmas tradition, one that families argue about every December. Is it a kids' movie? Absolutely not. Is it a Christmas movie? Absolutely yes. It's a reminder that the holidays aren't just about warmth and nostalgia. They're about chaos, about expectations collapsing, about laughter and fear sharing the same room. And in that sense, Gremlins might be the most honest Christmas movie ever made. By the end of the 1980s, Christmas horror had split into two paths. On one side, chaos and comedy. On the other, cruelty, tension, and irony. No one understood that balance better than Tales from the Crypt. When Tales from the Crypt debuted on HBO in 1989, it felt dangerous. This wasn't watered-down network horror. It was gory, mean-spirited, and proudly juvenile.
This particular Santa preferred older women. In pieces, that is.
A love letter to the old EC comics of the 1950s. And fittingly, one of its very first episodes was a Christmas one. And all through the house wastes no time. A woman murders her husband on Christmas Eve. As she hides the body, she learns something far worse is outside. An escaped mental patient dressed as Santa Claus, armed with an axe, and stalking the neighborhood. That's it. No backstory, no psychology lecture, just survival. Most of the episode unfolds inside a single home, transforming a cozy Christmas setting into a pressure cooker. There's a child upstairs, there's a body downstairs, and there's a killer Santa at the door. The brilliance here is restraint. The Santa figure is relentless but silent, more force than character. Every knock, every shadow, every scrape against the door tightens the tension. It understands something Silent Night, Deadly Night didn't fully grasp. You don't need to explain Santa as a monster. The image alone does the work. What truly makes the episode unforgettable is its ending. In classic EC Comics fashion, justice is ironic and merciless. The murderer doesn't escape punishment, but neither does the innocent. It's bleak, it's nasty, and it's delivered with a wicked grin, courtesy of the Crypt Keeper himself. This isn't horror meant to traumatize. It's horror meant to smirk at you as it twists the knife.
Well, it just goes to show ya. Be very careful what you ask for Christmas. You might just get it.
And all through the house succeeds because it knows exactly what it is. Short, sharp, mean, and stylish. It doesn't overstay its welcome. It doesn't overthink the concept. It simply executes it perfectly. For many fans, this episode became a Christmas tradition. Proof that holiday horror could be clean, effective, and unforgettable in under 30 minutes. If Silent Night, Deadly Night cracked the door open, Tales from the Crypt slammed it shut and locked it behind a killer in a red suit. It showed future filmmakers how to do Christmas horror right. Lean into the imagery, respect the tension, and never forget the punchline. Sometimes the best holiday horror stories are the shortest ones, because they don't give you time to feel safe.
Naughty or nice?
By the mid-2010s, Christmas horror had proven it could be funny, shocking, and subversive. But what it hadn't been in a long time was mythic. Then came Krampus. Released in 2015 and directed by Michael Dougherty, writer and director of the cult classic Trick or Treat. Krampus isn't a modern invention. He's centuries old. A horned alpine demon born from European folklore, said to punish misbehaving children during the Christmas season. Long before Santa rewarded good behavior, Krampus dragged the wicked into the snow. Dougherty understood folklore better than most modern horror directors. He didn't want a slasher. He wanted a legend. And he built Krampus accordingly. The film centers on a dysfunctional family gathering during Christmas. Arguments simmering under forced cheer, resentment disguised as tradition. When young Max loses faith in the holiday, a supernatural storm descends on the house. Snow buries the streets, power goes out, and one by one, things start coming down the chimney. What makes Krampus work is its setting. The house is a besieged fortress. Outside is a world swallowed by darkness, wind, and something moving just beyond the porch light. Christmas becomes a siege. Unlike many modern horror films, Krampus leans hard into practical creature design. We get demonic gingerbread men, possessed toys, a jack-in-the-box straight out of hell, and shadowy elves that move like feral animals. And looming over it all, Krampus himself, massive and silent, more presence than personality. He doesn't speak, he doesn't explain. Like all great folklore monsters, he doesn't need to. Krampus walks a difficult line. It's cruel but not cynical, funny but not stupid.
See? Squirrels. Right. Probably playing with their nuts.
The humor comes from recognition, from knowing how ugly family holidays can get, while the horror punishes that ugliness with merciless logic. The film understands something fundamental. Folklore doesn't care about excuses. You're judged, or you're taken. Without spoiling specifics, Krampus earns its reputation by refusing to fully soften its ending. It offers a moment of warmth, but surrounds it with unease. The snow globe imagery, the implication that the nightmare isn't over. It leaves you with the sense that Christmas isn't saved, it's contained, and containment is never permanent. Since its release, Krampus has become a modern Christmas horror staple. Annual rewatches, merchandise, a cult following that grows every December. More importantly, it reconnected Christmas horror to its oldest roots. Folklore, punishment, and winter as something to be feared. Krampus didn't mock the holiday, but it did remind us what it used to mean. By the mid-2010s, audiences thought they understood Christmas horror. Killer Santas, home invasions, snow-covered suburbs hiding something ugly. Better Watch Out arrives pretending to be all of that, and then quietly pulls the rug out from under you. This isn't a movie about monsters. It's a movie about entitlement. Set almost entirely inside a quiet upper-middle-class suburban home. The film begins like a familiar holiday thriller. A teenage babysitter, a wealthy house, parents gone for the evening, strange noises, threatening messages. It plays like a modern Home Alone filtered through the strangers. And for a while, it wants you to relax into that expectation. That's the trap. What Better Watch Out does best is weaponize your assumptions. Without giving anything away, the film pivots hard, turning its initial premise inside out and revealing a much darker core. The threat isn't external, it's personal, and it's disturbingly believable. This is Christmas horror stripped of folklore and fantasy. No demons or masks, just manipulation, control, and cruelty hiding behind privilege and youth. Director Chris Peckover keeps the tone deceptively playful. Bright lights, festive decor, witty dialogue, while escalating the stakes in unsettling ways. The violence isn't excessive, but it is intentional. Every act of harm feels deliberate, calculated, and deeply uncomfortable. The film forces the audiences to confront an ugly truth. Sometimes the scariest person in the room isn't the intruder. It's the one who thinks they're entitled to everything inside it. Better Watch Out earns its place because it evolves the genre. It doesn't recycle Killer Santa imagery. It doesn't rely on nostalgia. Instead, it reflects modern anxieties about masculinity, control, and the quiet violence that can exist beneath polished surfaces. Christmas becomes the backdrop for a lie, a season of forced niceness that masks something rotten. Upon release, the film flew under the radar, but word of mouth transformed it into a cult favorite. Those who go in blind often leave shaken, not because of jump scares, but because the film refuses to let the audience feel morally comfortable. It's a Christmas horror movie that doesn't want you cheering. It wants you thinking. On paper, Anna and the Apocalypse sounds like a joke. A Christmas movie, a zombie apocalypse, a full-blown musical. Any one of those could sink a film. Somehow, this one pulls them all together and lands on something genuinely moving. The film began life as a short called Zombie Musical, created by director John McPhail, who expanded the idea into a feature-length project fueled by youthful energy and a sincere love of genre cinema. Set in a small Scottish town during the Christmas season, the movie follows Anna and her friends, teenagers standing at the edge of adulthood, stuck between who they are and who they're expected to become. And then, the dead rise, because, why not? Zombie stories are often about conformity, routine, and societal collapse. Anna and the Apocalypse leans into that tradition, but filters it through teenage uncertainty. School hallways become survival zones. Holiday routines collapse overnight. Authority figures fail. The apocalypse doesn't just destroy the town, it strips away expectations. And when the characters sing, it isn't ironic. It's emotional punctuation.
I need a human voice, something that I can hold on to in all this static noise. I need someone to break on through.
The songs express fear, denial, hope, and grief in ways dialogue can't. The musical numbers aren't there to be cute. They're there because emotions are too big for words. What truly surprises first-time viewers is how unafraid the film is to hurt you. It starts bright, funny, almost bubbly. But as the story progresses, it refuses to protect its characters. People you expect to survive don't. Moments of triumph are followed by real loss. The Christmas setting makes that sting sharper. This is supposed to be a time for togetherness, and instead, everything falls apart. Anna and the Apocalypse succeeds because it's sincere. It isn't mocking horror, it isn't parodying musicals. It treats both with respect. The zombie effects are practical. The choreography is tight. And beneath the genre mashup is a story about growing up, letting go, and choosing hope even when the world ends. The emotional honesty is rare, especially in holiday horror. Though it didn't explode at the box office, Anna and the Apocalypse has steadily grown into a cult favorite. It's now a seasonal tradition for many fans, proof that Christmas horror doesn't have to be cruel to be effective. Sometimes it can be joyful, sometimes it can sing, and sometimes it can break your heart while doing both. By the time the snow settles and the lights dim, one thing becomes clear. Christmas was never as safe as we pretend it is. Beneath the wrapping paper and carols, the season has always carried something darker. Ghosts at the window, footsteps on the roof, and old fears stirred by long nights and bitter cold. From whispered phone calls to killer Santas, from mischievous monsters to ancient demons and apocalyptic choirs, Christmas horror doesn't exist to mock the holiday. It exists because the holiday invites it. Winter strips the world bare. It isolates us. It forces us inward, toward family, memory, regret, and hope. And where emotions run deepest, horror has always found a home. These films remind us that joy and fear aren't opposites. They sit side by side, flickering like candlelight in the dark. One makes the other stronger. So whether your Christmas traditions include caroling, cocoa, or a double feature of killer Santas and demonic folklore, remember this. The fire feels warmer because the night outside is so cold. And the light feels brighter because something is always lurking just beyond it. Sleep well. Keep the lights on. And if you hear something on the roof tonight, maybe don't open the door. Merry Christmas.